should people remember the Holocaust Day that is today? I think
it's very difficult, particularly for younger people, because it becomes more and more detached from the events themselves. One way that maybe enables some sense of what happened is to go for a person and the story of that person, because I think this exemplifies and you can relate to it. I think that the most emotional experiences I had were not when they told me, 6 million Jewish people were killed, but when they told me, this person with a name, he was taken out of his house and he was put on this train, and he was, and a struggle that person had all through. I think these are the strongest, this is the strongest way to really
respect the Holocaust Day. Okay, alright. It's a very emotional thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that also, I think it is important to understand that this is something that is beyond a Jewish experience.
It's a humane
thing, because it is the people who were involved are people.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that there is something in us that can bring us as a society to behave like this. And this is something that goes way beyond
one person
or one region or one country. And it's something that we need to be very attentive to and very careful with.
Okay. How is the Holocaust Day remembered in Israel?
So I think that this has kind of changed over the years. When I was a child, the emphasis was on heroic acts, because this was kind of a better way, maybe to think about it. And also because many of the survivors were actually ashamed that they allowed this situation to happen.
Okay.
And so it was not talked about.
Okay.
As a child, I was. There were many people who were Holocaust survivors around us in the neighborhood, but they never talked about it. And we heard about, as children at school, etc., we heard about rebellion in Warsaw, or events of the partisans, or things like this, but were attempts to go against the events. And then it moved to actually starting to talk about what happened in the camps, etc. And one thing that was done was to start and introduce people who were not in the Holocaust to people who have been through the Holocaust, and they told their stories.
Okay.
And I think this was a very important step. Unfortunately, there are fewer and fewer people who actually live that have been through the Holocaust. And so now you have to think about how to memorize it, or how to remember it beyond the period that you have survivors, real survivors of the Holocaust. And as I said, I think that actually somehow keeping those personal stories
alive is very important.
Somehow, yes.
Okay.